Today we're going to start with proteins, and after water, they are the second most abundant type of substance in the cell. What are proteins? They are basically polymers of amino acids. So you put a whole bunch of amino acids together, you end up with a protein. So we'll talk about structurally what a protein looks like and structurally all the different amino acids. We'll get into that. But if you look at your what you need to know list, the first thing on the list says what are some functions of proteins. So you should know that proteins have lots of different functions. Some proteins act as enzymes. So catalysts, we can say catalysts. An example are a whole bunch of the enzymes. The amylase enzyme that we saw in the carbohydrate chapter, that's a protein. Pepsin's a protein. There are a whole bunch of different enzymes that are proteins. Okay. And enzymes are catalysts, they speed up reactions. Another function for proteins, they are structure. They're important in structure. For those of you who've had an A&P class, you know about the structure of muscles. Muscles are made up of proteins. You know the contraction actin and myosin and troponin and tropomyosin. Those are all important components of the structure of muscle. Collagen is the most important connective tissue protein in your body. So I'll just, write myosin as an example of a structural component of, as an example of a protein that's important in structure of muscles. All right, number 3. Another really important thing that they will do are some proteins can act as hormones. A hormone, remember we saw hormones in the lipid chapter, the steroid hormones, the sex hormones. Well, there are hormones that are not lipids. There are hormones that are proteins. In general, a hormone is just any substance that's produced in one area and then it goes through the bloodstream usually and it targets some other area. So insulin is a typical hormone. It's produced by the beta cells of the pancreas and then it goes and it targets different parts of the body, mainly the muscle. So hormones, we'll put an insulin as an example of a protein that is a hormone. There's, gosh, what else? There's vision. There's a protein called opsin that combines with vitamin A, the retinol, and it forms rhodopsin, helps you see, especially at night. What other? Oh, transport. Proteins act as transporters. You've heard of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin transports oxygen to a whole bunch of places in the body. You have other proteins that will carry other things throughout the body. You've heard of lipoproteins, high density lipoproteins. That's proteins that carry a whole bunch of lipids everywhere, cholesterol, triglycerides, whatever. So I'm just going to write hemoglobin as an example. Anyway, that's just a quickie introduction to proteins. So they have lots of different functions. All right, let's move on to talking about the amino acids that make up proteins. Okay, so there are 20 standard amino acids. Now, make sure in your notes you have proteins. Proteins are polymers of amino acids. So amino acids hooked up together form a protein. So you have to have a whole bunch of them to create a protein. Let's talk about this 20 standard amino acids. They are categorized into 4 main categories based on their side chain. So all amino acids have this in common. They all have a carboxyl group. They all have this carbon here, which would be the alpha carbon, and they all have an amino group. Okay? And where do they differ? They differ in this. They differ in their side chain or R group. side chain, or R group. So what chemists have done is that they've divided up the R groups into 4 different categories. All right, what are the 4 R group categories? I'm going to write those 4 categories up here. First category is nonpolar. So a bunch of amino acids are under this nonpolar category, nonpolar side chain or R group category. Another group is under polar neutral. So what that means is that their side chain are polar, but they don't have a charge. Okay. Third is polar acidic. So they are polar and they have usually a carboxylic acid group because it's an acidic side chain. And then the 4th category is polar basic. Do you remember from the amine chapter that the amines can behave as bases? They can get protonated. They can attract a hydrogen ion. And remember, acids donate a proton. They get deprotonated. All right, so these are the 4 categories of side chains. So like I said earlier, all of the 20 standard amino acids have this in common, a carboxylic acid group, an amino group, and this alpha carbon. Now, all of them, all the standard amino acids are L amino acids. You guys remember D versus L in the carbohydrate chapter? D dextro, L levo. So the amino acids that are in your body are the L, okay? L amino acids. All right, so I'm going to go through all 20 amino acids, and I will show you which are in which category, which amino acids are in which category. Normally, I would like you guys to know the name of the amino acids, the 3-letter abbreviation, and the single-letter abbreviation. And then that way you can become really familiar with all of the components of that will make up proteins. All right, so let's start off with the first amino acid. So we're going to do the nonpolar category first. All right. And if you look at your book and you see a lot of things, they will put the side chain up here. I like to always put it at the bottom. It does not matter whether it's up here or down here. I don't know, maybe I should do it up here because that's the way the book does it. I like to do it down here. So I'm just going to do it down here. All right. But if you do it up here, that's totally fine. Okay. Carboxyl group, amine group, alpha carbon. All right. First, simplest amino acid is glycine. Its 3-letter is GLY. Its single letter is G. Glycine is super easy. It just has an H here. So it has the carboxyl group, the amine group, the alpha carbon, just an H. That's glycine. Okay. Second, nonpolar amino acid is alanine. ALA. Okay, so we have 3-letter, single letter. There we go. Alanine is the full name. 3 letters ALA, single letter is A. Alanine just has a methyl group. Okay, it's a methyl group. That's alanine. I should probably talk about the term Zwitter ion now because it's probably a good idea to introduce it pretty early rather than late. The term Zwitter ion. This is when you have it in ionic form, and amino acids in solution are always in some type of ionic form. The carboxylic acid group, this carboxyl group, loses its proton, so it gets deprotonated, and this amino group adds a proton, so it gets protonated. So if you are looking at alanine in the Zwitter ion form, you've got to draw it out with this is gone, this is deprotonated, and this is protonated. So it has two ions, a negative ion and a positive ion. So if you're ever asked to draw an amino acid in the Zwitter ion format, this is pretty much it. And so we're going to just assume that we're at a neutral pH, pH 7, because things happen differently when you are at a super low pH, very acidic, or super high pH, very basic. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that a little later on, but I just wanted to introduce this Zwitter ion way of drawing it, and may as well just continue drawing them always as Zwitter ions. Okay, so we did glycine and we did alanine. And if we were to do glycine as a Zwitter ion, this would look exactly the same, and you just have an H right here. Okay, all right, we'll do some more in the next video.